Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. First thing I want to do this morning is to share an update about the Ukrainian International Airlines tragedy that took so many innocent lives earlier this year. Even as we face this new crisis, families and loved ones continue to grieve and seek answers. I want to assure them and all Canadians that we have been working hard to get accountability and justice, even as we fight this pandemic. At the same time, we've also been developing a strategy with our other international partners to make sure that such a tragedy never happens again. Today, I'm appointing the Honourable Ralph Goodale as my special advisor for Canada's ongoing response to the downing of Flight 752. With his decades of extraordinary service to Canada, including as Minister of Public Safety, Ralph has the right expertise to guide our response to this air disaster and provide recommendations for best practices going forward. He will also continue to push to see families properly compensated. The second thing I want to do is share a story with you. A few weeks ago, Dave Caputo, the owner of a startup in TrustCore in the Waterloo region, called a meeting with his employees. With mounting concerns around COVID-19, Dave asked his team how they could repurpose their building materials factory to make products hospitals needed. A few days later, they had 4 prototypes drawn up. They decided to make large panels, which hospitals could use to subdivide rooms and isolate people with COVID-19 from other patients. Well, on Monday, panels made of fully recycled materials were delivered at no cost to several hospitals in the region, including Grand River, St. Mary's, and Guelph General Hospital. Dave and his team showed what Canadians do in difficult times. We don't back down from a challenge. We roll up our sleeves and we get to work. I know that this pandemic has been incredibly challenging for people right across the country, but we're also seeing the best of what it means to be Canadian. From coast to coast to coast, businesses are retooling to produce face shields, ventilators, hand sanitizers, and other supplies our healthcare professionals need. To make it easier for companies to help out during this critical time, we launched Canada's plan to mobilize industry to fight COVID-19 a little over a week ago. In the time since, we've spoken directly to almost 3,000 companies who've reached out to offer their help. Before we go any further, I want to thank all the owners and entrepreneurs and managers who've answered our call to action. This vital support comes at a critical time. And the way you looked around and said, not how can I keep myself safe, but how can I keep myself and my employees safe and help out in this critical time, is a real sign of leadership and a sign of what Canadians do best. In tough times, we pull together, we're there for each other, we put up our hands and we ask, how can we help? I also want, in the same vein, to thank everyone who's making, shipping, and delivering these products. People who work on the manufacturing sector and in terms of getting people the items they need are on the front lines of this fight. Our country needs you through these tough times, and we thank you deeply for everything you do. Lorsqu'on a annoncé le plan canadien de mobilisation du secteur industriel pour lutter contre la COVID-19, on avait dit qu'on était en train de conclure des accords avec Thornhill Medical, Medicom et Spartan Bioscience. Aujourd'hui, on annonce la signature de contrats d'approvisionnement avec ces 3 entreprises canadiennes pour fabriquer du matériel médical comme des respirateurs, des masques chirurgicaux et des trousses de dépistage. Je tiens à souligner le travail du ministre Baines, qui a joué un rôle de premier plan pour conclure ces ententes. On a également signé des lettres d'intention avec 5 autres entreprises, soit Precision Biomonitoring, Fluid Energy Group, Irving Oil, Calco Group et Stanfields. En mobilisant l'industrie, on peut produire ici au Canada les articles dont nos professionnels de la santé ont besoin pour protéger leur propre santé traiter les patients qui ont la COVID-19 et freiner la propagation du virus. When we announced our plan to mobilize industry, we said that we were close to reaching agreements with Thornhill Medical, Medicom, and Spartan Bioscience. Today, we're announcing that we have moved forward with contracts with these 3 Canadian companies to make medical supplies such as ventilators, surgical masks, and test kits. I want to recognize the great work Minister Baines has done to make this happen. We've also signed letters of intent with 5 other companies: Precision Biomonitoring, Fluid Energy Group, Irving Oil, Calco Group, and Stanfields. We know that the demand for critical equipment and supplies will grow in the coming weeks, so we need a sustainable, stable supply of these products. And that means making them at home, and we're optimistic that they will be available in the coming weeks. So today, I'm also announcing that our existing next-generation manufacturing supercluster will be leading companies in developing and scaling up new technologies to test and treat Canadians. Demand for these goods is going up, so we're making sure Canada is ready to keep up. That's why our government is also allocating $2 billion to purchase protective personal equipment, including for bulk purchases with provinces and territories. This includes things like more masks and face shields, gowns, ventilators, test kits and swabs, and hand sanitizer. Protective personal equipment is essential to protect our healthcare workers who are on the front lines of this fight. We recognize that more is needed, and everyone is working day and night to receive essential supplies. We're coordinating with the provinces and territories, the Public Health Agency, and the experts to make sure our healthcare workers get everything they need. This is a priority for our government, and we will continue to source new solutions every day. We're expecting shipments to come in the coming days, and we will continue to work tirelessly to get these supplies to where they're needed. Plusieurs entreprises ont également fait des dons d'équipements et de matériel médical pour contribuer à la lutte contre la COVID-19. Le groupe Alibaba nous a envoyé 500 000 masques chirurgicaux et 10 000 tests de dépistage pour nous aider. Le groupe COVID-19 Medical Support, un organisme qui rassemble des professionnels de la santé, des ingénieurs, des entrepreneurs et des représentants d'organismes à but non lucratif, travaille avec plusieurs entreprises pour fournir du matériel médical. Jusqu'ici, ils ont obtenu un engagement de la part de Bombardier, de 3M et de Medtronic pour fabriquer de l'équipement de protection personnelle. Et Toys R Us s'est engagé à fournir des moniteurs pour bébés aux hôpitaux canadiens pour favoriser une meilleure communication entre les patients et les professionnels de la santé. Ces moniteurs aideront aussi à réduire les déplacements inutiles dans les hôpitaux qui pourraient mettre les vies en danger. Je veux remercier les nombreuses entreprises qui ont fait un don pour leur générosité et leur leadership. Vous faites votre part et tous les Canadiens devront suivre votre exemple. There's no question that we will need more masks, ventilators, and testing kits. But how many more we need depends entirely on you. If you stay home and follow public health recommendations, you can slow the spread. And that means fewer patients in our hospitals, fewer people to test, fewer ventilators to use on critical patients. So keep doing your part and help us keep Canada safe. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Nous allons commencer avec la période de questions par téléphone aujourd'hui. Modérateur, c'est à vous.
Thank you. Merci. The first question, Maura Forrest, Politico. Your line is open.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Yesterday, you were asked about pipeline construction continuing on the Trans Mountain expansion, and you said you'd have a better answer today. Now, Jason Kenney is saying construction will start on the Keystone XL pipeline as early as April 1st. Do you have concerns about construction continuing on these projects? Do you think it should stop?
I can assure you that Crown corporations, all Crown corporations, are following all the best medical advice. Je peux vous assurer que toutes les compagnies du gouvernement sont en train de suivre tous les conseils donnés par nos experts médicaux.
Follow-up question, political.
Yeah, so I mean, that didn't really answer my question. I guess that means you're comfortable with construction continuing. But my follow-up question is about the wage subsidy. You initially promised it at 10%, then last week it was hiked to 75%, but still seemed to be targeted towards small and medium-sized businesses. Now it's available to all businesses. I'm wondering why you've taken such an incremental approach to this measure, given that you're now asking employers to hire back people that they've already laid off.
This situation has been evolving rapidly, as we all know. We're putting in place unprecedented measures to respond to the needs that people are expressing on how we're going to be able to get through this together, how we're going to be able to stay home, self-isolate, not go into work, and yet still be able to pick up our economy when we're through this particular crisis. That is the focus that we've had, and that's why what we're offering is the 75% wage subsidy to companies large and small, nonprofit sector and charitable sector included, so that people can stay on the payroll while they stay home and stay isolated, so that we can ensure that we do bounce back strongly from this once we're through this period.
Merci. Prochaine question.
Thank you. Merci. Next question. Mike Mansfield, Canadian Press. The line is open.
Good morning, Prime Minister. You talked about shipments coming in the coming days and the fact that more will be needed, obviously. So I think what I'd like you to do is, can you walk us through your decision-making process around the cabinet table, how you decide how these scarce medical resources will be allocated in the near future? How precisely in detail do you decide what goes where?
Thank you, Mike, for your question. It's a very good one, and I can tell you that we don't decide around the cabinet table. It is not politicians who decide how resources are allocated. We rely on experts, on medical officials, on coordination between medical officials in all different provinces to make the determination on where things are most needed, and we follow the direct advice of medical experts in terms of how to ensure that everyone, everywhere, has the equipment they need.
Follow-up question?
So what input? Yes. So what input then are you looking for from provinces and municipalities as they struggle with this? And does this ramp up of Canadian production, is this a reflection that this has to be a made in Canada solution? We can't rely on exports or imports from the United States, let's say?
We continue to work very, very closely with the provinces to know exactly what the needs are, what the supplies are, where potential gaps might be appearing, depending on trend lines and different modeling. We are in constant communication to ensure that the resources needed in different parts of the country will get there exactly when they're needed. And on the second question, yes, on procurement, the entire world is trying to get its hands on the various equipment needed to fight this virus. That is why we know that it'll be important to be able to have made in Canada solutions. And I am incredibly, incredibly proud of Canadian companies, Canadian suppliers and manufacturers who are stepping up and saying, we want to help. We will help make ventilators. We will help make masks and gowns and all the things that we are going to need in the coming weeks. It has been a truly amazing and inspiring story to see how many factories and manufacturers are stepping up. In the meantime, we're continuing to work very hard on procurement solutions to get the items that we need for the coming weeks. Okay. Je suis d'abord extrêmement inspiré par ce que les manufacturiers et les compagnies canadiennes sont en train de faire. On reconnaît qu'il y a une grande demande à travers le monde pour ces équipements et ça va être important d'avoir des solutions faites au Canada qu'on va pouvoir assurer que nos propres besoins vont être couverts pour les semaines et les mois à venir. Et entre-temps, on est en train de travailler avec toutes les provinces pour regarder les niveaux de besoins, pour coordonner, pour s'assurer que l'équipement nécessaire va être là pour les compagnies et les endroits qui en ont besoin. Mais en même temps, on est en train de travailler pour amener des livraisons de cet équipement dans les jours à venir.
Merci. Prochaine question, modérateur.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Émilie Bergeron, agence QNI, à vous.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau. J'aimerais savoir quelle assurance avez-vous des entreprises, des nouvelles, là, les 5 nouvelles que vous annoncez, que le matériel va être produit à temps pour répondre aux besoins?
On est en train d'essayer d'accélérer tous ces processus, mais on reconnaît que ça va prendre un peu de temps. On parle de probablement quelques semaines avant que ce matériel arrive de nos manufacturiers canadiens. C'est pour ça qu'on est en train de continuer d'accepter et de recevoir des envois de matériel de partout dans le monde.
Suivi, Émilie.
D'accord. Et concernant... Oui, merci. Et pour Medicom, qui va produire des masques N95, combien de masques sont prêts à l'heure actuelle ou seront prêts prochainement?
J'ai pas cette information-là, mais je sais qu'il va y avoir une conférence de presse après celle-ci où ils vont avoir plus d'informations sur l'approvisionnement.
Merci beaucoup, modérateur. Dernière question.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Marie Vastel, Le Devoir, à vous.
Oui, bonjour, M. Trudeau. J'aimerais revenir aux travaux de construction qui se poursuivent pour l'agrandissement de l'oléoduc Trans Mountain. Vous dites que vous suivez l'avis des experts médicaux, soit, mais il y a des communautés autochtones qui sont très inquiètes de voir les allers-retours de travailleurs dans leur région. Pourquoi ne pas suspendre les travaux pour les protéger d'une contamination potentielle?
On comprend à quel point les communautés autochtones partout au pays sont vulnérables. C'est pour ça qu'on a pris des mesures spéciales à travers le pays pour assurer que la COVID-19 ne se répande pas dans ces communautés qui sont souvent sous déjà beaucoup de stress sur leur système médical ou sur le nombre de gens dans chaque habitation. Donc, nous savons qu'il y a toujours plus à faire. Par rapport aux travaux, je suis confiant qu'on est en train de prendre, que la compagnie est en train de prendre toutes les mesures nécessaires pour garder les gens en sécurité.
OK, puis ma question de suivi sur un autre sujet, sur la prestation canadienne d'urgence. Est-ce que vous craignez qu'il y ait un effet dissuasif du fait que la PCU est d'un montant de 2 000 $ par mois? C'est plus généreux que quelqu'un qui travaille au salaire minimum. Est-ce que vous ne craignez pas cet effet dissuasif et que certaines personnes préfèrent réclamer la PCU plutôt que de continuer à travailler?
Je comprends qu'on est dans un système extrêmement difficile où l'important, c'est de s'assurer que les gens peuvent s'isoler, peuvent prendre les décisions nécessaires pour se garder en sécurité, pour garder leur famille en sécurité. On reconnaît en même temps qu'il y a des emplois qui sont plus essentiels que d'autres et je suis confiant qu'en travaillant avec les provinces, en veillant à ce qu'on puisse s'assurer que ce qui a besoin d'être fait continue d'être fait, tout en s'assurant que les Canadiens ont l'argent nécessaire pour pouvoir continuer de payer leur loyer, continuer de pouvoir faire leur épicerie. Ça va être quelque chose qu'on va continuer de travailler ensemble. Okay. We recognize that people need money to be able to stay home and pay their rents and be able to buy groceries. This is a situation that is unprecedented, and it was really important for us to get money into people's pockets quickly. We recognize that there are going to be challenges around certain essential services, and we're going to work with provinces, and we're going to encourage people to find solutions that will allow people to stay safe while they continue to do the job they need to do.
Prime Minister, I'm wondering, you've talked a lot, and your cabinet ministers have talked a lot about there being enough protective gear for healthcare workers, but we're hearing from healthcare workers that they're being rationed and that they're concerned, that they're afraid to go into work. How do you explain that difference, I guess, between their perspective and the government's?
I think one of the issues that we're facing with is we're looking at a number of different models where worst case scenarios are fairly dire, but the expected track is reasonable and something we think we're going to be able to manage. I think healthcare workers and everyone needs to keep in mind what the potential worst case scenarios are. And that's why it continues to be so important, not just for us to prepare for every eventuality and be very careful and responsible about how we use the equipment we have, but also impress upon Canadians how important it is that the decisions you make today, whether you go out and how you go out, if you do go out, will have a direct impact on the need that healthcare professionals will be facing a week from now, 10 days from now. That's why it is so important for everyone to keep pressure off our healthcare system by staying home, by making sure that you're making smart choices to keep us all safe.
Pour faire un peu un suivi, M. Trudeau, bonjour, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. Pour faire un suivi à la question de Ryan, on a des infirmières qui nous disent les hôpitaux leur demandent de prendre les masques, de les emmener à la maison, de les laver et de les réutiliser le lendemain. Est-ce qu'on est rendu dans une pénurie si grave que les infirmières et les travailleurs de la santé doivent se mettre en danger comme ça?
Je pense que on est dans un moment où nous devons être prêts pour toute éventualité. Je pense que c'est responsable qu'on regarde des façons de d'étendre et d'assurer qu'on a un bon approvisionnement de matériel pour les scénarios potentiels dans les jours à venir. Mais je peux vous assurer qu'on est en train de travailler jour et nuit pour prendre livraison d'autres équipements. On est en train de travailler avec nos compagnies canadiennes pour en produire et on est en train, encore une fois, de rappeler aux Canadiens que les choix qu'on fait aujourd'hui sur si on reste à la maison ou si on sort dehors, va avoir un impact direct dans l'achalandage, dans les besoins de notre système de santé dans une semaine, dans 10 jours. C'est pour ça que tout le monde doit faire sa part. Okay. I think it's extremely important for everyone to do their part in staying home and making sure that a week from now, 10 days from now, we aren't overwhelmed in our healthcare system. We are looking at a range of models that could lead to different outcomes. We're, of course, preparing for the worst case scenarios, but working towards and certainly hoping for a best case scenario. But that entirely depends on citizens being responsible in their choices. As for decisions made by medical professionals on managing the supplies that they have, I can only salute them for the work that they're working so hard and the decisions they're making to keep us all safe as a country and to keep themselves safe so they can keep keeping us safe.
Au niveau international, il y a une mini-guerre qui se livre présentement pour l'achat d'équipements médicaux. À quel point ça vous préoccupe que le Canada va se ramasser avec une certaine pénurie? À quel point ça vous préoccupe?
Je pense que il y a bien des choses qui doivent nous préoccuper dans cette situation. Moi, la santé des Canadiens est d'abord et avant tout ma préoccupation. Et à l'intérieur de ça, évidemment, la santé de nos travailleurs dans le système de santé qui sont là en train de nous garder en sécurité. On est en train de travailler avec nos ambassades à l'international pour assurer l'approvisionnement d'autres matériels. On s'attend à en recevoir dans les jours à venir aussi. On va continuer d'être présent pour accepter livraison au Canada, mais c'est pour ça, en même temps, c'est tellement important de créer une industrie qui va créer ces mesures-là, cet équipement-là ici à la maison, qu'on ait des chaînes d'approvisionnement entièrement au Canada. Et c'est exactement ce qu'on est en train de faire. Et je veux remercier encore une fois les manufacturiers et les entreprises qui ont pu adapter leur production et commencer à créer cet équipement si nécessaire pour le Canada et pour partout dans le monde.
Much, please.
Okay. We are, of course, working hard to make sure that we receive shipments of needed supplies in the coming days. And I can assure you that our embassy staff around the world is strongly engaged in exactly that. But that's also why it is so important that we have made in Canada supply chains to provide us with this essential equipment for the coming weeks, for the coming months. And that's why I am so pleased to be able to thank the manufacturers and producers across this country who've switched their production over to making this necessary medical equipment, because it will ensure that we have solutions in Canada that will cover our needs.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Olivia Stepanovich, CBC News. The Americans are said to be most aggressively scooping up personal protective equipment on the international market. I'm wondering if you found that to be the case, and if so, if you have prevailed upon President Trump to work together to come up with a common North American strategy so you can quickly ship ventilators and other personal protective equipment across the continent to priority areas.
We are working very hard to ensure that Canada receives the equipment that we need, both in the short term and in the medium term, creates production facilities to ensure that we can cover our needs. We understand that countries around the world are taking their own approaches. We will continue to coordinate as much as possible, but every step of the way, our priority will be ensuring that Canada is able to take care of its own.
But are you working with President Trump on a North American strategy? And also, can you tell us exactly how much medical gear has been deployed and delivered so far?
We have been able to cover all our needs up until this point, and expect to be able to cover our needs for medical equipment in the foreseeable future. But that is why it is so important for us to ramp up domestic production as well. And with the United States, we continue to coordinate on a broad range of issues. Nous allons continuer de coordonner avec les Américains sur bien des enjeux, mais notre préoccupation sera toujours de s'assurer que les Canadiens ont assez d'équipements pour se garder en sécurité et en santé.
And how much medical gear has been deployed and delivered so far?
That's a question for the ministers who will be addressing this a little later today.
Brian Mullen, Global News. Prime Minister, with rent due tomorrow, many small and medium-sized Canadian businesses are worried about paying their landlords. What can the federal government do? Is rent forgiveness in some shape or form on the table?
We've already worked with CMHC to ensure that many mortgages are able to be deferred. We've put more money in the pockets of businesses, or putting more money in the pockets of businesses through this wage subsidy, the 75% that will take off a significant amount of pressure. We've also made available a $40,000 loan for small businesses through the banks that'll be interest-free for the first year, and as they go through it, $10,000 of it under certain conditions will be non-repayable at the end. So there are direct measures for companies to be able to get the liquidity necessary to get through the coming months so that we can be strong once we get through this crisis at the end of it.
Two First Nations communities in Manitoba and other communities are requesting military hospitals be set up. Is this something that the government is contemplating for remote communities with limited access to healthcare?
We know that our military, the men and women of our military, are always ready to serve, to help in a broad range of ways, Canadians who need that support. The field hospitals is certainly an expertise that the Canadian Armed Forces have, and they will make determinations, and we will all make determinations about how we can and where we can best help if it comes to that.
Hi, Prime Minister. Molly Thomas, CTV National News. Canadians, of course, are putting lots of money on their credit cards. They're raking up interest. Last week, you had mentioned that you had talked to banks about possibly deferring that interest. Any more movement on that?
Those conversations continue with the banks. We're also looking at ways of easing access to credit for individuals so that they can shift their bank balances and their credit card balances to a lower interest line of credit. These are things that we're continuing to work on because we recognize that Canadians don't want to come through this with impossible levels of debt, and we're going to be there to help them out.
In French, please.
Nous reconnaissons que on ne veut pas que les gens sortent de cette crise encore plus endettés qu'avant. C'est pour ça que nous envoyons tellement d'aide par la prestation canadienne d'urgence et de l'aide pour la subvention aux entreprises, pour la masse salariale. Mais nous savons aussi que on peut travailler avec les banques et on est en train de travailler avec les banques pour les encourager de faire des changements au taux de carte de crédit. Et on est aussi en train de regarder l'accès au crédit pour les individus pour qu'ils puissent avoir des emprunts qui vont coûter moins cher que les cartes de crédit.
So we're seeing reports that after more than a year, China is going to allow Canadian exports of canola. Can you confirm that? And is this a thaw in relations between the two countries?
I think we're recognizing that we're in a global situation where it is really important for countries to work together. We have seen promising signs of positive relations on specific issues, and we're going to continue working to try and ensure that our farmers, our manufacturers, our exporters continue to have access to the markets around the world, even in this difficult time. Okay. Nous allons continuer de travailler avec nos fermiers, avec nos producteurs pour assurer qu'ils ont des marchés pour leurs biens. On reconnaît que c'est un moment où les gens doivent travailler ensemble, les différents pays doivent travailler ensemble, et je suis content de voir des signes qu'on arrive à travailler ensemble malgré des différends importants.
Merci beaucoup. C'est Christine
Merci
à la conférence de presse aujourd'hui.